Welcome back. It's the farewell for the summer strategist session with the four brightest minds of insight in the workings of the political world. Let's get them going. Greg McEachern is with Proof Strategies. Kate Harrison is with Summa Strategies. Carl Belanger, president of Douglas Colwell Foundation. And Greg Weston is with the Earnscliffe Strategy Group. All right, gang, let's rock and roll here. The Doug Ford meltdown. I'm just curious how Andrew Scheer barge poles himself away from this smelly mess, or is the connection already too established to shake loose? Greg Weston?
If you're the other parties, you will make sure that you just keep running picture after picture, that you've got stock photos of the two of them together. So whether they're apart or not, I mean, the polling must be so bad, Don, that even Ford said, I won't be campaigning. I mean, he had to come out publicly and say, I'm not going to campaign for you, really, honestly. So what started out as a big hug fest, as you'll recall, I mean, Scheer just couldn't get enough of the forever popular Premier Ford. Not so much now.
Yeah, so that's the resistance. You're resisting him. All right, Carl?
Well, I mean, the reality is that the Liberals, no matter what, will campaign on Doug Ford equals Andrew Scheer. They will campaign on Jason Kenney equals Andrew Scheer.
So you're saying it's too late?
Well, it's going to be really hard. I mean, having Doug Ford away, if he can resist the temptation, which I have some doubts, to interfere and intervene in the federal election. That said, I mean, there's a reason that the Queen's Park is not sitting until after the election. It's not just because they needed a reset, because obviously the reset that they needed was bigger than we expected, as we saw with the Dean French episode, which is still ongoing. So it is a mess for the Conservatives. It's hurting the brand, but not everything is lost for Andrew Scheer and the Conservatives, because at least they've taken some steps in Ontario to try to right the ship.
All right, I'll save the Conservative apologist for last.
Apologist?
Well, not apologist.
Impassioned supporter.
Impassioned supporter. Greg? Doug Ford, is the Liberals just kind of keep on twisting that screw, thumb screws on Andrew Scheer? What can they do to get away from it?
It's an incredibly powerful thing in politics when you can take something that was supposed to be a huge asset, which was all these Conservative premiers getting elected, and when you can flip that around and use it for your own good as opposed to your opponents. Case in point, the Maclean's cover. When that Maclean's cover came out, there were so many victory laps about this, and I'm speaking of the one of Scheer, had Ford, Kenney, all these. Scott Moe is the one that I think everybody needs to be reminded about. When does he run for election? Has he been leader for a year and a half? Anyway, we'll set that aside. But yeah, when you take the advantage of this relationship, was supposed to be so beneficial for the federal Conservatives, and it's not been. And I think when you were in Calgary, I said that that Scheer needs Kenney more than Kenney needs Scheer. And a lot of people joke that Kenney is the real leader of the Conservatives. I don't think it's been great. The other thing I'd say about provincially is there's been a bleed of really good political staffers over the last year. And I think Mr. French may have had something to do with why a lot of people departed their political jobs early in the Ford government. So they've already lost a huge talent base, and that maybe those people will be available to work the federal election now.
Yeah, we were talking just before we went off the air Friday about whether Dean French, the chief of staff, should go. He should have been shuffled out first, and sure enough, within a few hours of that airing, he was gone. But now he says he's sort of back and still in semi-control, whatever that means. But anyway, the Doug Ford problem. How big is it for the Conservative Party of Canada?
Well, no surprise. I don't think it's quite the level of, apocalypse that my colleagues are predicting. I think that, the cabinet shuffle in Ontario is probably a signal that the Ford government is going to take the summer to do a bit of that reset. Staffing, ministers getting briefed up on new files. So I think that they'll be quite focused on that as opposed to what's happening federally. But I would not say that it has been all bad to have Andrew Scheer and the various Conservative premiers associated with one another. I think the group of them kind of campaigning together against a carbon tax, it's actually worked in terms of public opinion, or at least what the Liberals were hoping would land with the rebate hasn't landed quite as effectively. So I think Jason Kenney hitting the campaign trail, talking to new Canadian communities is going to be good in Ontario, because that's been a real strength for him. And I also see Andrew Scheer making sure that his policies are kind of out there early, so then that way the focus is more on policies as opposed to what the other premiers are doing.
Well, let me stick with you on this one. What's Andrew Scheer's mission this summer, since this is our last shot before the summer winds up? I mean, how does he connect with voters? He's still relatively unknown to the vast majority of the electorate.
Yeah, I think that he's got to do not dissimilar from what Justin Trudeau did in 2015, hit the barbecue circuit, start meeting with people, rally the base in the sense of meeting supporters, making sure that they feel enthusiastic about going out and knocking on doors, particularly Ontario and Quebec come to mind. I also think there's something happening in Atlantic Canada. We see a lot of polling numbers increase there. Maybe he should spend a little bit of time out there. Don't focus so much on areas where you're already strong. So really look towards the 905 and parts of Quebec outside of Quebec City and maybe parts of Atlantic.
I'll get your thoughts, Greg, on, a hodgepodge. What do you think the three leaders should, well, maybe four if you throw Elizabeth May into the mix. What should they be doing this summer? Is it just barbecue circuit stuff?
I think it's going to be a really hot time on the barbecue circuit, Don. This is going to be a really nasty, negative campaign, and it's down to two aspects, and the two leaders have to discredit the other ones. And the Conservatives' entire focus and Andrew Scheer's entire focus will be on Justin Trudeau and trying to demonize him and as being incapable and whatever else they can throw out there. And the Liberals are going to spend a lot of their time making sure that Andrew Scheer, who is not well known, becomes known in the terms that they want to shape. And you can be sure that demonization there will include things, our favorite topics like abortion and immigration. And by the time it's finished, I predict that we're in for a really nasty negative campaign.
It doesn't sound sunny ways anymore, Greg. Is he right that it's all going to be storm clouds and lightning?
I think for Justin Trudeau, he just needs to use a phrase from the 1980s, jobs, jobs, jobs. They've created 1 million jobs. They can talk about the pipeline, talk about job creation. I think they've taken the environment as far as they can go. I think they've if you are in support of climate change proposals, plans, you want to vote for a party that's going to win, you're going to vote Liberals. I don't think Scheer's plan last week, it kind of landed pretty flat. He had some rough going on the weekend with Evan Solomon on Question Period.
Got to see that interview.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of like burst things in a couple of days. So I think if Trudeau sticks to the jobs line, he can have allies talk about some of the social conservative concerns that Greg Weston just mentioned.
So what's Jagmeet Singh do? He's got his platform out there. The Liberals have stolen some of it with pharmacare, or will. How does he get noticed in the noise?
Well, in the summer, there's not that much noise, so we should take this opportunity to go and sell that platform. And local media are starved for content in the summer, so local radios, local TV station, meet the editorial boards of the dailies and the weeklies that are around, give them some content without wasting too much ammo, because you're going to need some of that in the fall, come the election. For Justin Trudeau, the trick is to be in the news and driving the agenda without being omnipresent, so people don't get too tired of him. Some people may argue that that's already too late, but he is the government, and there's no House of Commons to ask him pesky questions, so he can still drive the agenda. Scheer needs to be seen and heard. He's still a big question mark for a lot of Canadians. And as for Elizabeth May, for her, she should not believe the hype. She should focus on Vancouver Island and British Columbia as a whole, not spread too thin across the country. Just focus where she can grow her party.
All right, interesting. I want final topic here is, I guess 120 days out from the election, the parliamentary budget officer kind of down tools about doing what he usually does. And he's opened his door and said, look, bring me your platforms. I can start costing them so that you can release it. And the question I'm trying to figure out in my head is it worth the risk of parties to put their platforms to a test like that, which might come back with a number that's pretty scary, or does not doing it open up yourself to all kinds of allegations that you're just fudging the numbers and having fun with figures? Greg, what's the answer here?
If you're the Conservatives, it's more fun talking about your platform than actually having a platform. And all of this assumes that your platform is well enough defined that the parliamentary budget officer can actually take that and cost it. I think you'll find with the Liberals, It's a lot clearer. They're the government. They kind of have to. But it's also they have the least to lose. People expect them to be big spenders. People don't expect the Conservatives to be big spenders because they're complaining about it day in, day out about the Liberals. So what they will present, I predict, is a platform that's almost impossible for anybody to check. And that's what the Parliamentary Budget Office will come back with.
Okay, I'm running out of time, so I would just quickly, 30 seconds each from you. Is it worth the risk doing it, or do you just say, here's my platform, I haven't got it costed?
Everyone's going to do it except for the Conservatives, so I think it's going to make them look bad and it'll make all the other parties look good.
Why aren't you
That
guys
wasn't
doing
30
it?
seconds.
That was 10. He summed it up beautifully. Why not the Conservatives?
Well, I mean, who knows if it may be costed by a third party. We've also seen that happen in the past too, right? Not necessarily the PBO looking over it. I think if you actually asked people, does your vote depend on whether or not you have the Parliamentary Budget Officer's seal of approval on your platform? We might get maybe half of 1% of voters that think that way. So to me, as long as your timelines are clear and your targets are clear for when you're going to reduce the deficit, that's what matters to Tory voters.
And you know, that platform the NDP's rolled out, tentative as it is, that's got some big numbers to finance that. I guess they're going to put it to the PBO test.
They will. And the last time the party did put it to the former PBO because system was not in place yet. So I think it's a valuable exercise. If the Conservatives decide not to play along, well then, what do you have to hide? And there comes the accusation of the hidden agenda, and you can get a third party if you want, but the reality is you don't have the aura that the Parliamentary Budget Officer brings to the table. And it's too bad because I think the Conservatives can bring up a platform that adds up, but the fact that they won't go through the exercise will allow people to say that it doesn't.
Well, as we saw in the last election, fiscal prudence doesn't really matter to voters. Deficits seemed fine last go round.
Nobody. Who remembers what was in somebody's platform the next day?
All right.
Nobody.
Thank you, gang. Have a great summer. The next time these guys are on, by the way, it'll be the day after Labor Day. Maybe the campaign will be underway. Maybe it'll be almost underway. Thanks very much. I appreciate you being here.